Today we're talking about the 2019 M. Night Shyamalan superhero thriller crossover sequel, Glass. Strap in for wall-to-wall exposition, more twist endings you can shake a stick at, and a performance by James McAvoy that completely upstages every other part of the film. What up, nerds? I'm RealAlexBrisson, and you're watching Brisflix, the show where I watch a movie and Brisplain it to you at breakneck speed. If you're looking for circumcision videos, you've got the wrong Brisflix. You may remember M. Night Shyamalan for his films Sixth Sense and Signs. I've been a devout Shyamalanite since 7th grade. There was a time where I even would have told you he was my favorite director. But then he went on to make one terrible film after another. Lady in the Water, The Happening, The Visit. Watching The Visit felt kind of like having a filled diaper shoved in your face. The real twist ending, M. Night Shyamalan was really a terrible director all along.
This is where they would paint you with big eyes and bubbles of confusion above your head.
He really fooled us with that one. So when I say that Glass is a crossover sequel, what I mean is that it is the sequel to both Unbreakable from 2000 and Split from 2017. That's right, it's another one of these cinematic universes that's all the rage these days. First we had Marvel, then DC, then the Monsterverse, now we've got the Shyamalan-verse. Hollywood is working towards a day that every cinematic universe just bleeds into each other so audiences will no longer have to question releases like Garfield vs. Predator. But since Unbreakable came out like 20 years ago and nobody remembers what happened in that movie, the characters are constantly having to remind us of their backstories.
You were the sole survivor of a devastating train derailment 19 years ago.
This guy killed everyone on my train. He's a mass murderer.
He almost drowned when he was a child. Water is his weakness.
Like Bruce Willis's son having to constantly remind us that Bruce Willis is his dad.
Dad, you look tired.
Hey, Dad.
I don't think that you need to take a walk today, Dad.
Dad? 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 You're my dad, Dad. So yeah, it's Bruce Willis's character from Unbreakable who has the power to not die in a train crash.
The only person to survive that train wreck all those years ago.
And James McAvoy's character from Split, Kevin, who has the power to suffer from multiple personality disorder, but one of his personalities can climb up walls. James McAvoy's performance is a lot of fun. He's a total show stealer.
You know, that boy band stuff, some of it's okay, but Drake's my new main man.
When the movie begins, Kevin has kidnapped a cheerleading squad, but Bruce Willis and his son are on the case. So Shyamalan decides to make his obligatory director's cameo only like 8 minutes into the film.
One of the tenants got murdered off-site and people are on edge.
There are a few things that can really pull you out of the fantasy of watching a film more than the director being on screen. What's worse is he's reprising his role from Unbreakable in 2000.
I used to hang out with some shady types down at the stadium in my youth. Turned it around with positive thinking.
Because I was really invested in what happened to this character in the last 17 years.
Excuse me, sir. We've been having some problems with people selling drugs here in the stadium. Would you mind if I check your pockets?
Can I put my hands down now?
It wouldn't be Shyamalan Avengers without Jai. So Bruce Willis eventually finds multiple personality man in a warehouse, and they play catch with a table, and then they have a hugging match, which results in them being arrested. So Bruce Willis and Kevin each wake up in a cell about twice the size of my room, which turns out to be a wacky superhero mental hospital run by Sarah Paulson.
I'm a psychiatrist. I specialize in those individuals who believe they are superheroes.
Oh, also Samuel L. Jackson is there, but he doesn't get any lines until about the 80-minute mark. Which is funny, considering the movie is named after him.
First name Mr. Last name Glass.
Sam Jackson's character has the power to get his bones broken super easily. Sarah Paulson tells them that they're all delusional and they actually don't have superpowers at all.
You've convinced yourselves you have extraordinary gifts, like something out of a comic book.
And then she tells them again.
But it is based on real things, and you are making the picture.
And again.
It was a practical observation that produced a practical skill set.
And again.
He's not much more powerful than a strong man.
Basically, the whole second act is just her telling them over and over that they are not superheroes.
If superheroes exist, why are there only 3 of you?
But she's simultaneously guarding them as though they are superheroes, which seems like it would kind of reinforce the delusion.
You see this camera? There are 100 more of these. I have installed cameras on every floor. every area, including every direction of the exterior building. We will see everything.
You're just a regular, ordinary guy. We use 50 security guards and 600 cameras to guard every frail old man confined to a wheelchair. But that's nothing compared to Bruce Willis's room.
I think you believe water is your weakness.
The walls are equipped with 46 high-pressured nozzles, all connected to a 15,000-gallon water tank outside.
We know you hate water, which is why we installed 50 fire hoses in your walls. Think of it as exposure therapy. We're doctors. And then there's Kevin.
You treat people who think they're comic book characters or something?
This guy clearly has 1,000,001 mental health issues. Is convincing him he's not a superhero really our priority here?
Ellos creen que es justo, no es justo hacer daño.
But just wait until you see the defense system they set up for him.
This is a hypnosis light. If for some reason there's a threatening identity in the room, the light will automatically strobe and force a different identity to take over.
This shtick leads to my favorite scene in the movie. Kevin disguises himself as a sexy woman in order to lure in the security guards.
Wow. Stand up and let me get a good look at you.
So he can attack him.
I'm Ian. And I'm Mary Reynolds. We're twins.
So the security guard blasts him with this thing over and over and over.
You can call me Norma. Oh, I'm so amped! I'm not supposed to be in the light, man.
Alright, okay, he's probably had enough. No?
You don't think he can beat the beast, does he? I'm a professor of cinema, specifically Japanese. Por favor, señora.
After a certain amount of personality, shouldn't he cycle back to a dangerous one again? Anyway, then the girl from Queen's Gambit shows up, and she already knows Kevin from the previous film when he kidnapped her and killed a couple of her friends, but I guess now she's in love with him, or at least with some of his personalities. You know, Stockholm Syndrome and such.
You look different.
I wanted to tell you something.
I only like Kevin, Hedwig, Barbara, and Sam, but I hate Gary, Rebecca, Rhonda, and Ringo. Quack Dr. Sarah Paulson tries to get Queen's Gambit girl to stay and be Kevin's live-in prison girlfriend.
I need you. The power of true, loving, physical affection. It's like something supernatural.
We're all superheroes in a way. Your superpower is helping Kevin. My superpower is pretending to be a doctor. Jeremy's superpower is mopping the floors. You missed a spot, Jeremy! Thankfully, Queen's Gambit girl does not take her up on this weird offer. Which brings us to yet another therapy scene. But there's a twist. This time, we're therapizing all three of these guys at the same time. Bruce, you weren't exactly opening up in our one-on-one sessions. Maybe you'll be feeling more vulnerable and open while you're chained up next to two people who tried to murder you. I like this visual because I feel like it reflects how these actors probably felt about their participation in this film.
I don't want to be here.
So Dr. Sarah Paulson tries to therapize these guys into submission.
These are the medical reasons I'm thinking you have this disorder. Now let's deal with why you think you don't.
Sam Jackson reacts appropriately by continuing to be a vegetable. Wake me up when this movie finds the plot! This whole discussion of whether they are superheroes or not is so dumb. If they really aren't superheroes, then that means basically the entire first two movies were just a dream sequence.
You can't possibly explain everything away.
Which I wouldn't put past Shyamalan, but like, come on. This is also one of those movies where they keep saying, it's not a movie.
This is the real world, not a cartoon.
Which is a trope that I've never really been able to make sense of, because like, yes it is. Of course it's not a movie to the characters in the movie, but to us, it's always a movie. So like, who are you trying to fool here? But I digress. So Dr. Sarah Paulson tells Sam Jackson that they're going to give him a lobotomy, something I would love right about now.
This is a corrective procedure that rebalances the part of the frontal lobe that is overstimulated.
So Sam Jackson escapes from his cell and he goes to visit Kevin, and he tells him, listen, we can escape anytime we want. So let's wait till tomorrow for some reason. Like, why? Why not just escape right now? You're already out of your cell. The movie has more plot holes than it does plot.
Are you aware that spandex, the underwear on the outside, and boots come from strongmen in the circus in the 1930s?
So the next morning, Mr. Glass is lobotomized. But actually, no, he's not. You see, this is one of those brilliant Shyamalan twists, because last night, Mr. Glass snuck in and disassembled the lobotomy laser, so it doesn't actually work, and somehow the doctors didn't notice this. They're like, you just flip on the machine and it does the rest for you. No need to double check your work or anything. Good old Lobotomatron 5000 has never let us down. So Sam Jackson escapes from his room again, which isn't that hard since there's only one guard responsible for all three super prisoners. They must be short-staffed since they dumped all their money into that elaborate plumbing system. So he slashes the guy's throat with a big shard of glass. Apparently he's been collecting shards of glass.
Took a bitch-ass long time to find the right piece.
Where he's been getting them and where he's keeping them, Who's to say? They probably figured at this point there were so many things that didn't make sense that we wouldn't even notice. These random shards of broken glass are a metaphor for the plot. So Sam Jackson invites Bruce Willis to come fight James McAvoy, but before he can do that, he has to fight a door. The bad guys team up to escape. James McAvoy turns into the Beast, not to be confused with Beast from X-Men, or Beast from Beauty and the Beast, or the Beast from The Beast. The Beast is what he calls his super strong personality who can climb walls. If I could describe the Beast in one word, it would be vascular. He looks like a massive, throbbing person. Finally, they arrive at the parking lot, which is where we're going to have our epic showdown.
Well, the skills are revealed and pitted against each other.
But before the showdown can begin, Bruce Willis's son shows up and drops this bomb on us.
Kevin's dad didn't just take any train and not come home. Mr. Glass killed Kevin's dad.
So it turns out Kevin's dad was killed in the train accident orchestrated by Mr. Glass in Unbreakable. But that's not all.
If that train crash hadn't happened, Kevin wouldn't have been left alone with his mother. If Kevin's mother wasn't allowed to continue to abuse him, then the Beast wouldn't have had to be born. I created you as I created David.
That's right, Mr. Glass caused... I feel like I'm losing brain cells trying to explain this. Mr. Glass caused this train crash, knowing that it would cause this random kid to end up without a father, so that his mother would abuse him, which would cause him to develop superpowers, a chain of event that has never occurred before in the history of mankind. So not only is Mr. Glass extremely intelligent, he's apparently also omniscient, because there's no way in hell anyone could have ever known that that would happen when you cause that train crash.
I truly am a mastermind.
It was his plan all along. So Kevin breaks Sam Jackson's ribs and then he dukes it out with Bruce Willis, who he immediately tosses into a vat of deadly water. Just like the alien from Signs, Bruce Willis's greatest weakness is water. So the superhero cops show up and they break up the whole thing by killing all the main characters. Not joking, they kill all of the main characters within a couple of minutes right here. There's a twist for you. You know you're dealing with really high caliber superheroes when they're killed by things like a single bullet, or falling out of their wheelchair, or drowning in a tiny puddle of water.
David, take my hand! Take it now!
Just how far does this weakness to water go? Like, any amount of water can kill this guy? Could he drown in a glass of water? Sam Jackson explains with his dying breath that this was actually just the beginning, and that we should expect dozens, if not hundreds of more Shyamalan superhero movies to come.
This is not a limited edition. This was an origin story. The whole time.
Sarah Paulson explains to a dying Sam Jackson that she's actually a part of a 10,000-year-old organization that lobotomizes all superheroes. Another twist. And like any bad movie, it doesn't end there, even though all the main characters are dead.
Everything that occurred was related to drugs in their systems or their heightened state of mania. For the patient's privacy, let's keep what happened in this building and this parking lot to ourselves.
These employees weren't in on the evil plan. They just watched these patients lifting cars and bending steel beams with their bare hands. And then all three were murdered in cold blood on camera. And she's just like, well, they were on drugs. And everyone's like, oh, okay, all right, that makes sense. How much is she paying these people? And then she goes to a dinner party where she gives a book report, and then she goes to a comic book store. Shyamalan is really in no hurry to finish this movie at this point. He is relishing every second of this. While she's at the comic book store, she overhears this totally natural sounding conversation.
He's too smart. That's why he's the mastermind. He'll never tell you his real plan. He sets everybody up, gets them looking in one direction.
So cool, man.
There's always a real plan.
I like the idea that these guys are complete strangers and this guy just came up and was like, this is why he's the mastermind. He's always got a plan. The other guy's like, yeah, cool, okay. Freak. I feel like Shyamalan sees a lot of himself in the Mr. Glass character. He's a brilliantly deceptive mastermind who's obsessed with comic books and breaking the fourth wall. He's physically frail and he's best friends with his mom. The parallels are endless. Brace yourself for yet another brilliant Shyamalan twist.
I don't know how this is possible. Someone was streaming the live security feed to a private site.
turns out Mr. Glass was streaming this superhero battle the entire time.
This was a suicide mission. I gave him all the cameras he needed right here.
We're buried in so many layers of convolutedness at this point, it's like, who can even? So then we get this recording from Mr. Glass where he kind of implies that the whole reason that they were superheroes to begin with was because they were crazy enough to believe they were superheroes.
We give each other permission to be superheroes.
Really, anyone can be a superhero, they just have to believe in themselves. Except you, Jeremy, get back to mopping those floors. So Bruce Willis's nerdy son posts the video online, and the video goes viral, as demonstrated by this shot. Those people could have been looking at anything. Snapchatting with their friends, accidentally emailing the wrong coworker, checking bus times. Wow, everyone around us is looking at their devices. That must mean the video's gone viral. People don't just look at their cell phones in the middle of the day.
This is the moment we are letting on the universe.
Tone it down a bit, Meryl Streep. Like, what does this line even mean? It's one of those things they just say for the trailer. Anyway, it's finally over. That's it. That's the movie. It's done. But there's still one more big Shyamalan twist. This movie had a budget of $20 million and made $246 million in the box office, making it a massive success. Shyamalan does it again. He makes another terrible film and makes a ton of money off it. How does this guy keep doing this? I can't make any sense of it. Maybe people just have a short memory. They see Shyamalan and they think Sixth Sense and they forget all the terrible stuff that came after. Or maybe there's just a lot of people out there that love to watch terrible movies. I know I do. Or maybe I'm the one that's crazy. Maybe these movies have been good all along. Studios keep producing them, audiences keep seeing them, big actors keep participating in them. Maybe I'm the one that's been crazy all along. Next thing you're gonna tell me The Visit made 5 times its budget and that critics gave it positive reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. This can't be happening. This is impossible. Well, I guess there's only one way to cure myself of this insanity. A lobotomy. But first, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Comment below and let me know what movie you'll want to hear me talk about next. Want me to make more Shyamalan videos? I could talk about one of his new movies, like Old, or one of his old movies, like The Happening. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.